Conway there, and we're taking you live to Brussels now because NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg is speaking. Let's listen in.
We will also decide on a new NATO strategic concept, setting out our position on Russia, on emerging challenges, and for the first time on China. And in this context, I welcome that the leaders of our Asia-Pacific partners will take part in our summit for the first time. Last but not least, better burden sharing and resourcing of our alliance and the historic applications for membership by Finland and Sweden. At this ministerial in Brussels yesterday and today, we have made progress on many of these areas. Last night, we met with Ukrainian Defense Minister Resnikov. We addressed the imperative need for our continued support as Russia conducts a relentless war of attrition against Ukraine. NATO allies and partners have been providing Ukraine unprecedented support so that it can defend itself against Moscow's aggression. Allies have announced additional assistance, including much needed heavy weapons and long-range systems. We also discussed plans to support the country for the longer term. We are putting together a NATO comprehensive assistance package for Ukraine, helping Ukraine improve interoperability with NATO, transition from Soviet era to modern NATO equipment, and further strengthening security institutions. Yesterday, over 40 nations, NATO allies and partners took part in the meeting of the Ukraine Support Contact Group led by the United States and committed to continue to uphold Ukraine's right to self-defense. Georgia, Finland, Sweden and the European Union also joined the meeting of NATO defense ministers. We made clear that all countries have the right to choose their own path without outside interference. Russia's aggression is a game changer, so NATO must maintain credible deterrence and strong defense. Today, ministers addressed the scale and the design of our future posture and how we can step up across all domains with substantial strengthening of our presence, capabilities and readiness. This will mean more NATO forward-deployed combat formations to strengthen our battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance, more air, sea and cyber defenses, as well as pre-positioned equipment and weapon stockpiles. And a new force model with more forces at higher readiness and specific forces pre-assigned to the defense of specific allies, to enable much faster reinforcement. A number of allies have committed to contribute to our stronger presence in the eastern part of our alliance, but we still have some work to do as we look to the summit, where I expect further announcements. The substantial strengthening of our deterrence and defense is necessary for our security, but it does not come for free. So ministers also discussed the importance of resourcing our decisions. We have seen 7 consecutive years of rising defense investment across Europe and Canada. Allies are also contributing to NATO deployments and exercises and investing in more high-end capabilities, including 5th-generation aircraft and emerging technologies. Now is the time to keep up the momentum so we can continue to preserve peace, prevent conflict and protect our people. And with that, I'm ready to take your questions.
Okay, Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung, in the last row. There.
Thanks a lot. Secretary Thomas Kutschka, Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung. Secretary General, the Pope has made a few remarks on NATO's possible contribution to the war in Ukraine. He said that we don't know the whole drama unfolding behind this war, which was, and I quote him, somehow either provoked or not prevented. We all know the Pope can claim infallibility for his remarks. Maybe not for this one, but I'd be keen to hear your reply. Thanks.
So NATO is a defensive alliance, and the war in Ukraine is President Putin's war. This is a war that he has decided to conduct against an independent sovereign nation. And what NATO has been doing for many years is to support a sovereign independent nation in Europe, Ukraine, train, assist and advise and equip the Ukrainian armed forces. That is what NATO allies and NATO have done for many years. This is not a threat to anyone. This is not a provocation, and that is what we continue to do. So it is President Putin and Moscow that is responsible for this brutal aggression against the independent country, Ukraine.
Okay, we'll go to the National News Agency of Ukraine. No?
Expectations in Ukraine because of a big three visiting Ukraine. I mean, leaders of France, Germany, and Italy. I'm just curious if they consulted NATO before coming to Kiev from the security and military point of view, and how that visit could be influencing the future cooperation in military field between the NATO and Ukraine. And a short follow-up, if I may. If Ukraine now is fighting for NATO values using the NATO weaponry, is it the right time to raise a question or consider the future membership of Ukraine in NATO? Thank you.
I welcome that leaders of NATO allied countries go to Kiev and visit Ukraine and meet with the political leadership, meet with President Zelensky, and also see the atrocities, the result of the brutal aggression by Moscow and President Putin in Ukraine. I think that is important to demonstrate solidarity, to convey a clear political message, and also, of course, to have that opportunity to consult with the political leadership in Kiev. We are also, of course, consulting with the political leadership in Kiev, here in Brussels, in different NATO capitals. We had the Defense Minister Resnikov participating in the meeting yesterday. And, of course, we also consult among ourselves between NATO allies, as we also did yesterday in the dinner where we had the European Union, Finland and Sweden, together with Minister Resnikov and all 30 NATO allies, discussing the way forward in our support to Ukraine. And also we had the meeting of the US-led support group here at NATO yesterday. More than 40 NATO allies and partners participated in that meeting, consulting, discussing how to sustain an unprecedented level of support to Ukraine, and also in that context welcome the announcement by the United States yesterday to further increase support, $1 billion US extra for military aid, including artillery and also long-range fires.